What if Ned Stark chose betrayal over honor, just once? Imagine a world where he lived. But everything noble about Westeros died with that decision. The sky above King's Landing burned in a pale orange hue, the sun dipping behind the Red Keep as screams echoed in the distance. In the dark, damp cells of the Black Cells, Eddard Stark, Lord of Winterfell, Warden of the North, sat broken, bloodied, and cornered. But not defeated, not yet. Varys had visited earlier, soft-voiced and careful, whispering of life, of daughters, of survival. Ned had dismissed him, clinging to the last shreds of honor that defined him. But now those pieces were torn and jagged, cutting deeper than any Lannister blade ever could. He could barely feel his legs. The chains had rubbed raw against his ankles. His beard was matted with dried blood. His mouth was dry but not from thirst. His pride was rotting in it. And yet it wasn't death that haunted him anymore. It was the sound of Arya's voice echoing in his mind, the thought of Sansa begging at Cersei's feet, and the whisper that refused to go quiet. "Is your honor worth your daughters' lives?" He looked up when the door opened again. The torchlight outlined a familiar figure, Maester Pycelle, flanked by 2 gold cloaks. "It is time," the Maester croaked. Ned rose with effort. The room spun. The pain in his ribs flared, but his decision was already made. He would lie. For the first time in his life, Eddard Stark would betray the truth. He would kneel. He would confess. He would live, and everything would unravel from there. As the crowd gathered at the steps of the great sept of Baelor, whispers spread like wildfire. The traitor lord was to confess. Some expected defiance. Some expected a final speech of honor. What they got was far worse. A silence that stung, a confession that left the crowd cold. "I plotted against my king. I desired the throne," Ned said, voice hollow but loud enough to carry across the square. "I conspired with Stannis Baratheon, and I am guilty of treason." Gasps, murmurs, silence. Sansa's sobs echoed louder than any other sound, but no sword fell. No executioner stepped forward. Joffrey grinned. Cersei smirked. And Ned Stark lived. Wait, what just happened? Ned Stark just confessed to a crime he didn't commit, and it worked? If your brain's spinning, just wait, because what happens next? It flips Westeros upside down. Smash that like if this betrayal already changed your entire view of Ned Stark. Let's dive deeper. The North heard the news before ravens could reach Winterfell. Whispers traveled faster than wings. The Honorable Ned Stark bowed to the boy king, said he wanted the throne, called himself a traitor. At Winterfell, Maester Luwin read the letter thrice, each time slower than the last. Robb didn't speak for hours. When he finally did, it wasn't with words, but the slam of his sword into the training dummy that shattered it in half. "They broke him," Robb muttered. "They turned him into something he's not." Catelyn stood beside him, fists clenched. Or maybe he chose to be something else. Back in King's Landing, Ned's survival came at a cost. He was no longer a prisoner, but a political pawn. Cersei had him placed under guarded house arrest in the Tower of the Hand, stripped of title, stripped of dignity, yet alive, surrounded by stone walls and serpents alike. They let Sansa visit, but Arya, she vanished. The last thing anyone saw was her darting into the crowd as the confession ended. Cersei celebrated her victory in wine and whispers. "Honor is a poor shield," she said to Littlefinger. "But fear is impenetrable," Peter Baelish smirked. "So, Your Grace, you've taught the realm that even wolves bend the knee." But behind his smile was curiosity. A broken wolf wasn't a threat. A pretending wolf? That was something else entirely. But here's where it gets wild. This decision didn't just save Ned. It corrupted everything else. Stay with me, because the dominoes start falling fast. Robb called his banners anyway, not because of honor, not because of justice, but because he no longer trusted his father. And that was a wound deeper than betrayal. The North didn't rally to avenge Ned Stark's death. They rallied to avenge the Ned Stark they used to believe in, the man they paraded in chains. Great Your Number spat. "That's not Eddard Stark. That's a southern ghost wearing his face." The war began not with honor but with fury. Meanwhile, Ned remained silent in the tower. Sansa begged for leniency. Varys urged him to play his part, to stay quiet, stay alive. "Live long enough, Lord Stark," the spider whispered, "and you may get to choose who dies next." But inside Ned, something dark festered. Regret? Guilt? Or worse, justification. He thought of his father burning in King's Landing, of Brandon strangling on a rope, of Lyanna bloodied on a bed, dead Starks, all for pride. He had chosen something different, and the world was punishing him for it anyway. Okay, pause. If you're wondering, did Ned make the right call? Or did he break the realm with one sentence? Tell me in the comments, is survival worth becoming a liar? Because what happens next? It's not just betrayal. It's transformation. Arya didn't disappear. She trained. And this time she wasn't fueled by revenge for her father's death. She was fueled by shame for his survival. At the House of Black and White, her voice was quieter. Her resolve, colder. When Jaqen H'ghar offered her the gift of facelessness, she took it, not to kill for justice, but to erase the pain of family. A girl has no name, she whispered. But the truth? The girl had a mission, to find the man who destroyed House Stark, even if he once shared her blood. Meanwhile, Cersei's confidence bloomed like wildfire. She had crushed a Stark, bent him, turned him into a living monument of Lannister dominance. She underestimated just how much more dangerous a dishonored man could be, because one night, Ned stopped praying to the old gods. He stopped writing letters. He started listening to Varys, to Tyrion, even to Littlefinger. And for the first time, he asked a question not born of duty but of vengeance. What would it take? To destroy the boy king? To destroy the boy king? Ned Stark betrayed his honor to save his life. He confessed to treason, bent the knee to Joffrey and lived, but the cost. His soul, his family, and the realm's fragile balance. The North marched, not for justice, but for vengeance. Arya vanished, not in mourning, but in cold resolve. And in the Tower of the Hand, Ned Stark stopped being a prisoner. He started becoming something else. Rain lashed against the stone tower, thin streams tracing the ancient cracks that spiderwebbed the walls. Ned stood at the window, gazing past the downpour toward the Red Keep's inner courtyard, where Lannister guards trained in gold and crimson. His hands were clasped behind his back, fingers twitching against each other. Not from cold, from calculation. He hadn't spoken in days, not to the guards, not to Sansa, only to Varys. Every night the spider came, and every night Ned listened a little more, asked a few more questions. And on the 10th night he finally gave an answer. I want him gone. Varys didn't smile. He didn't blink. He simply whispered, then we begin. Wait. Ned Stark, plotting a coup? This isn't the man we knew. This is someone else, and you're not ready for who he becomes. Outside the capital, chaos bloomed. Robb's army had crossed the neck, not under a banner of justice, but wrath. At Moat Cailin, the Karstarks swore to spill southern blood. At the Twins, Walder Frey demanded hostages, not for loyalty, but insurance. And at River Run, Catelyn saw it all unravel. He lied to them, she said quietly, watching campfires flicker across the banks of the Trident. Ned lied to the realm. It doesn't matter, Robb replied. They don't want a hero anymore. They want revenge. Inside King's Landing, Tyrion Lannister returned to the city, with smoke in his eyes and strategy on his mind. He smelled the shift in the air the moment he stepped through the gates. Joffrey, once untouchable, now looked over his shoulder. Cersei drank more. The small council was quieter. And Ned Stark was watching. Tyrion visited him, brought wine, spoke carefully. You're still alive. That's impressive. I didn't plan to be, Ned answered. Tyrion leaned back in his chair. Neither did I, but here we are. Two prisoners of our own choices. Ned looked him in the eye. I'm no longer a prisoner. Tyrion raised a brow. No? Then why the guards? The tower. The chains you pretend not to see? Because, Ned said slowly, I haven't given them a reason to be afraid yet. But here's where it gets insane. Ned doesn't just plan in shadows. He acts, and his first move? It changes everything. At midnight, under storm clouds thick as smoke, a raven left the Red Keep, carried no royal seal, spoke no name. But it bore a single sentence. The wolf is alive, but the lion's cub must die. It reached Dragonstone 3 days later. Stannis Baratheon read the message in silence, then burned his maps. Not out of madness, out of belief. Back in the capital, Arya watched from rooftops. She had returned, not to reunite, but to infiltrate. The girl with no name had one more face to wear before vanishing into myth. She had one target, her father. And she didn't want to kill him. She wanted to see who he really was now. Late one night, She slipped into the tower. No mask, just Arya, just her. And when Ned saw her standing in the shadows, grown, hardened, unflinching, he didn't reach for her. He didn't cry, he only said, "You shouldn't have come." She stepped forward. "You shouldn't have lied. Hold up, did Arya just confront her father in secret? And what she does next will make you question everything. They didn't embrace, they didn't forgive." Arya asked one question, "Do you still believe in anything?" Ned didn't answer right away. Then he looked at her, not as a daughter but as a mirror. "I believe in ending the game before it ends us." Arya nodded once. "Then we're both dead already." And she left, just like that. The city grew tense. Joffrey sensed it. Sansa pleaded with him to show mercy, to release her father fully. Joffrey sneered, playing with the hilt of his blade. "Let the old wolf rot. Maybe I'll send him Arya's head next." But Ned heard every word, because Varys had replaced the guards outside the door, and the trap had begun. Okay, pulse check. Did you expect Ned to go full strategist? Because what's coming next? It's betrayal layered inside betrayal. Littlefinger watched it all unfold. Amused, he approached Ned one evening sipping Arbor Gold, cloaked in sarcasm, so the quiet wolf sharpens his teeth after all. "I'm not here to be clever," Ned said. "I'm here to end this." Littlefinger leaned close. "Careful, Lord Stark, when you play the game—" "I'm not playing," Ned interrupted. "I'm rewriting the rules," and he meant it, because on the night of the royal feast, Ned's plan activated. It started with a poisoned cup, not for Joffrey, but for Sir Boros Blount, Joffrey's most loyal guard. He choked in front of the king, fell dead on marble. Panic spread like wildfire. That's when the gold cloaks turned, half of them anyway. The other half? Slaughtered in seconds. Cersei screamed. Tyrion vanished. Sansa fainted, and Joffrey found himself surrounded by spears. Not in front of the Iron Throne, but on the ground, dragged from the feast. Ned entered last, wearing his old Stark leathers, unchained, unbroken, and absolutely terrifying. Wait, what? Did Ned Stark just stage a coup? If you're still watching, comment "Wolf turned shadow" right now. Because this isn't the climax. This is just the fire being lit. Joffrey screamed like a child. "Treason! I am your king!" Ned walked up, eyes steady. So was Aerys. He didn't swing the blade, he didn't have to. The Northmen did it for him by dawn. The Iron Throne was empty. The city was in chaos. Varys fled, Tyrion disappeared. Cersei locked herself in Maegor's holdfast with Tommen and Ned Stark. He stood in the throne room, looking at that ugly metal chair forged in dragon flame and blood, and whispered, "I saved my life, but lost everything else. My life, but lost everything else." Ned Stark shattered everything we thought we knew. He confessed he survived, and then he struck first. Not with honor, but with cold, calculated rebellion. Joffrey Baratheon dead. Cersei cornered. The Iron Throne empty. The North marching blind toward a father they no longer recognized. And Arya? She left her name behind to become something worse. But now the dust hasn't settled, it's rising. Because when a wolf bites in silence, the rest of the pack doesn't know who's next. Cersei Lannister hadn't left her chambers in 3 days. The screams outside her door had stopped. The sounds of fighting, the clash of swords, the crack of whips, the burning torches being thrown at stone walls were gone. But that silence, that was worse. Silence meant Ned Stark was in control now, and Cersei Lannister was waiting for the sword. She sat beside Tommen, stroking his hair like he was still a child. His blue eyes didn't blink. He hadn't spoken since they dragged Joffrey's body through the Great Sept and left it at the foot of the Iron Throne, on display like a warning. Or a trophy. "They think they've won," Cersei whispered. "They don't know what war is yet." Behind her, Sir Meryn Trant still stood, bloody, burned, and trembling. "I want him dead," she said coldly. But Meryn didn't move, because he knew there was no one left to carry out her orders. Okay, pause. Did you think Cersei would go quietly? No chance. This is the woman who burned the sept, and this betrayal? She's about to return it tenfold. Meanwhile, at the Twins, Walder Frey stood in silence as a raven delivered the message. Joffrey Baratheon is dead. Lord Eddard Stark has taken control of the capital. The throne is unclaimed. Frey looked at the sealed scroll again, then burst into laughter. "The realm burns and it's not even winter," he muttered. He summoned his sons. His daughters, everyone. Because in chaos a Frey sees opportunity. And Walder wasn't about to let the throne change hands without making someone pay for crossing his bridge. At River Run, Catelyn Stark sat by a dying fire. The letter trembling in her hands. She had waited months to read her husband's words again, but what she got wasn't a letter of love. It was an order. Send Robb home. The war is over. She crushed the parchment in her fist. Not because the war was over, but because her Ned, the man who once wrote of duty, family, and justice, was dead. Robb stared at her across the fire. He's lost. He's not our father anymore. Catelyn met his eyes. He's something worse. Wait, what? Ned Stark just ended the war with a raven, and Robb refuses to stop. This family is shattering from the inside. In the shadows of Braavos, Arya trained, not with wooden swords, not with names, but with silence. Every face she wore was closer to the one she meant to wear last. She didn't say his name, but every movement, every cut, every whisper was meant for him, the man who broke their family without dying, her father. Back in King's Landing, Ned sat alone in the council chamber, now empty. The small council was gone. Grand Maester Pycelle, poisoned. Sir Barristan Selmy, dismissed. Peter Baelish, missing. Only one man returned, Tyrion Lannister. He walked in without armor, without sarcasm. Just whine, you took the city without dragons. That's impressive. Ned didn't look up. I didn't take it. I burned it differently. Tyrion poured 2 cups. What now? Ned didn't answer immediately. Then he said, I don't want the throne. Tyrion blinked. Then who sits on it? Ned looked at him, cold, empty. No one. Oh my God. Did Ned Stark just say the Iron Throne should be empty? This isn't about power. This is about erasing it. The realm fractured. With no king on the throne, every house sharpened its blades. In the Reach, Margaery Tyrell was crowned Queen of Thorns by her grandmother, Olenna without a king beside her. In the Stormlands, Stannis raised his banners not to avenge Robert, but to claim what he believed was his by fire and faith. But this time he wasn't alone. A shadow moved beside him. Melisandre smiled at the flames. The false king is dead. The war has just begun, and in the north, Robb refused to return. Instead, he did something no Stark had done in centuries. He called himself king, not to unite the realm, but to crush it. If you're still watching, comment king without a throne right now. Because what Ned just did, it didn't end the war. It birthed 1,000 more. Back in the capital, Ned released Sansa, not because he trusted her, but because she believed in something he no longer did. Peace. He sent her to the Vale, escorted by knights still loyal to House Stark. Go, he told her. Be what your mother once hoped I'd become. Sansa's voice trembled. And you? What will you be? Ned looked away. I don't know anymore. In secret, Varys returned. He found Ned more gaunt, more hollow, more dangerous. You've won the city, the spider said. But you've lost the realm, Ned nodded. Then I'll bury the realm with it. Varys stiffened. You speak like a Targaryen. No, Ned said. I speak like a father who buried his soul to keep breathing. And here's where it all breaks apart. Because Ned's next move, it's not political, it's personal. He sent ravens not to allies, but to enemies. He summoned Cersei, alone, no guards. No tricks, she arrived hollow-eyed, poison in her sleeve. What do you want? She hissed. Ned didn't flinch. To finish what we started. He placed Joffrey's crown on the table. Take it. Leave the city. Never return, Cersei blinked. You're giving it to me. No, Ned said. I'm giving you a chance to run before I burn it. Wait. Did Ned just threaten to destroy the Iron Throne itself? This isn't war. This is annihilation, Cersei laughed, not out of joy, but because she saw it now. Your wife was wrong, she said. You didn't lose yourself. You were always this man. You just didn't know it. And then she left, without the crown, without a word. The Iron Throne stood alone for the first time in centuries, and Ned approached it, laid a torch at its base, and walked away. Torch at its base, and walked away. Ned Stark chose life over honor, and the realm shattered. Joffrey is dead. Cersei humiliated. The throne left cold and empty. But Ned didn't take it. He rejected it. He wants no king, no crown, no gods. Just control. Meanwhile, Robb names himself king in the north, not to follow his father, but to fight him. Arya stalks the shadows. Catelyn mourns a man still breathing. And now, with fire on the horizon, Ned Stark prepares to light the match himself. A raven left Dragonstone at first light. It didn't carry demands. No declarations of war. Just one sentence in Stannis Baratheon's sharp, unbending hand. No king means no law. And no law means I take what's mine. At King's Landing, Ned stood in silence as the missive was read aloud. His jaw clenched, but his eyes didn't move. No emotion. No surprise, he knew it was coming. Stannis was no Joffrey. He wouldn't play games. He would come with fire, steel, and the Lord of Light at his back. And this time Ned had no armies, just a city too scared to bleed again. Tyrion read the letter twice, then poured himself a drink. Well, this is going to be bloody. Ned didn't answer. He was already walking out of the chamber. In the courtyard, ash still stained the stones where the gold cloaks had killed one another. The Iron Throne sat exposed, untouched. No king had sat it since Joffrey's death. And Ned made sure it stayed that way. But in the streets, rumors spread like wildfire. The Stark rules now. No crown. Just his word. A wolf with no leash, and the worst one? He's no Stark anymore. Wait, did the people turn on Ned too? This isn't just rebellion anymore. This is isolation. The North's not with him. The South fears him. And now, he's about to lose something else. In River Run, Catelyn Stark read her son's latest letter with shaking hands. It wasn't a plea, it wasn't a strategy. It was a warning. The next time we ride south, it will be to end him. She dropped the scroll into the fire, then turned to the blacksmith beside her. Make me a blade, she said quietly. One that can kill a Stark. Back in the capital, Ned received a visitor. She didn't wear a crown. She wore robes of red, eyes like flame, and a smile that made his blood crawl. Lord Stark, said Melisandre of Ashai. You've created the perfect kingdom. He didn't respond. She stepped closer. No gods. No king, no law, just ash waiting to fall. My lord will thank you when his fire consumes it all. She handed him a candle, lit burning without heat, and then she vanished. That night, Ned stood over the Iron Throne, alone, the candle in his hand. He stared at the jagged steel. 1,000 swords forged by dragonfire. He raised the flame, but he didn't burn it, not yet. Okay, this is it. The moment we've been waiting for. Ned's choice, destroy the throne, or become the very thing he hates. But then, the ground shakes. Stannis landed at Blackwater Bay with 10,000 men, not with siege. Towers, but with fire and something darker. They called it the Shadow of Storm's End, and it walked through. Stone like mist. The first night, 3 towers collapsed. By morning, King's Landing wasn't a city, it was a trap. Tyrion found Ned by the walls. You know what's coming? I do. Then why haven't you run? Ned turned to him. Because I started this, and I'm going to end it. But here's where it gets absolutely insane, Arya returns. And she's not alone. From the sewers beneath the city, 2 figures emerged in the dead of night. One wore black and walked with no sound. The other was smaller. Eyes like frozen fire, Arya. And the face beside her. Jaqen H'ghar. The many-faced god has no interest in thrones, he whispered. But he is unamused. Arya said nothing. She only asked, is he still in the tower? Jaqen nodded. And just like that, Arya Stark walked back into the city she left as a ghost. This time, it had become a shadow. Wait, hold up. Arya is back in King's Landing. During a siege with a faceless man by her side. The deaths coming are going to be legendary. As fire rained from the cliffs and Stannis' catapults cracked open the outer walls, Ned made his final move. He gathered the remaining council, what few remained. Tyrion, Ser Davos, who defected from Stannis. Varys now returned from hiding. And Sansa. I'm leaving the throne room unguarded, Ned said. Let Stannis take it. Let him sit it. Let him feel it. Then what? Tyrion asked. Ned looked at his daughter. We make sure it devours him. In the chaos of the battle, Arya moved like smoke. She crossed blades with no one. She wore the face of a servant, then a Lannister, then a priest. Each step, closer to the Tower of the Hand, closer to her father, closer to the kill she promised herself. Inside, Ned waited, not for battle, but for his daughter. He knew she would. Come, he knew what she was now, and he was. Ready she entered, no sword, no mask, just hurry us in silence. Ned rose. I thought you would have... warned someone else. She shook her head. You don't deserve a stranger's face. She unsheathed her dagger. Do it, Ned whispered, but she didn't. Not yet. Okay. If you're still watching, type Arya's choice in the comments. Because this moment, it's everything. Outside, the Red Keep burned. Stannis entered the throne room, no resistance. He stepped toward the Iron Throne, laid a single hand on it, and whispered, "Mine." Behind him, Melisandre smiled. The shadow stood at her side, and the room darkened. Back in the tower, Arya pressed the blade to her father's chest. Then she said something no one expected. "You're already dead," and she left. "You're already dead," and she left. Ned Stark betrayed his honor to survive, and what followed was the slow death of everything he once stood for. Joffrey dead, the Iron Throne abandoned, Robb crowned in the north, not in loyalty, but in rebellion against his own father. Arya returned to King's Landing, blade in hand, not to kill her enemies, but to confront the man who became one. And just when the throne seemed buried in fire, Stannis arrived, shadow in tow, and sat the chair no man had claimed since Joffrey's blood dried at its base. Now, a new king rises, but the wolves are not done biting. The morning after Stannis claimed the Iron Throne, the sun refused to rise over King's Landing. Black clouds clung to the sky like burned silk, and ash floated on the air like snowfall. The throne room had been emptied of corpses, but not of death. The scent of fire lingered, heavy and bitter. The throne itself, jagged, sharp, cold, looked no different. But everything had changed. Melisandre stood beside Stannis like a flame in human skin, robes shifting like smoke. She held no crown. She spoke no blessing. But when she whispered in his ear, every knight in the hall dropped to one knee. She didn't crown him with gold. She anointed him with blood. Okay, pause. Stannis didn't just take the throne. He took it through fire, through shadow, and with the Red Woman whispering in his soul. And Ned, he vanished. But he's not done, or days, the capital searched. No one knew where Eddard Stark had gone. Some said he'd been executed quietly. Others swore he had escaped through the dungeons. But the truth, Ned had never left the city. He moved through it like a ghost, hooded, silent, watching. The man who once ruled from the Tower of the Hand now listened from alleyways, catacombs, and ruined courtyards. He saw what the throne had become. And he waited for what? Even he didn't know. In the north, Robb received word of Stannis' coronation. He laughed, not out of joy, but bitterness. "So now we kneel to shadows." "No," he said to his bannermen. "We don't kneel." Not to him, not to anyone. And then the words that would damn the realm: "We march south at Winterfell." Maester Luwin wrote furiously. He sent ravens not for strategy, but warning, because for the first time in 1,000 years, the Starks were at war with each other. Wait, what? Robb is marching on Stannis, and Ned is still inside the city. This is about to explode. But first, Arya, she stayed. She should have left with the faceless man, should have vanished again into myth. But Arya remained in the shadows of the city, watching as Stannis painted over her father's rebellion with flame and prophecy. She made a new list, not of names, but of wrongs. Joffrey, dead. Cersei missing. Stannis, sitting the chair her father once defied. Melisandre, whispering poison into crowns. And the last name, Eddard Stark, not to kill, to witness, because Arya Stark no longer believed in justice. She believed in memory. Okay, hold up. Arya's not killing anymore. She's collecting ghosts. And her next move, it'll twist your heart. She found Sansa before she left the city. The older sister stood by a ship, bound for the Vale once more. Her face was older now, harder. No more songs. Just silence. Arya appeared without warning. No hug, no tears, just a whispered truth. "You're the only Stark left who doesn't want to kill or be killed." Sansa looked away. "That doesn't make me weak. It makes you rare," Arya said. Then she disappeared again. Back in the Red Keep, Stannis summoned his court. What remained of it? Lords too afraid to defy him. Knights who feared the Red Woman more than any army. And one unexpected voice. Tyrion Lannister. He entered the hall to gasps and whispers, bold as ever. "You burned a city to warm that chair," he said, nodding to the Iron Throne. "Tell me, how does it feel?" Stannis didn't respond. Melisandre did. The fire cleanses. Tyrion smirked. And the ash berries. That night, Ned Stark came out of hiding, not with a sword, but with a deal. He found Tyrion in the ruins of the Tower of the Hand. "I need your voice," Ned said. "And I need a new liver," Tyrion replied. "But go on." "I want Stannis out." Tyrion raised an eyebrow. "And who do you want in?" Ned didn't answer. He just said, "Not him. Here we go." This is the plot twist. Ned doesn't want the throne, doesn't want power, but he's about to offer someone else the crown, and it's going to break you. He rode through the night alone, no guards, no sigil, just a letter sealed in wax with a direwolf claw mark, and he rode not to the Vale, not to Riverrun, but to Dorne. In Sunspear, the Prince of Dorne opened the letter, and his face turned pale. "Is this true?" he asked the rider. The man only nodded, then handed over the second letter, meant for Elia Martell's daughter. Wait, did Ned just reach out to the last surviving Targaryen bloodline? If you're still with me, comment "The Dragon's Return," because we're about to bring fire back into this story, while the kingdoms prepared for war again. A ship sailed across the narrow sea. It carried no banners, just whispers. The last dragon, Daenerys Targaryen, and in her hands, a letter written by Ned Stark. Ned Stark betrayed his honor, and now he's betraying the game itself. Joffrey is dead. Stannis sits the Iron Throne, crowned in blood and fire. Robb marches south to face him, not as a son but as a rival king. Arya haunts King's Landing as a ghost of vengeance, and far across the sea a dragon stirs. Because Ned Stark didn't choose power for himself. He summoned Daenerys Targaryen into a war she wasn't meant to join yet. The realm thinks Ned is broken, but what no one realizes, he's finally in control. The letter from Ned. Stark sat heavy in Daenerys' hands. She read it again and again, not because she doubted its truth, but because she couldn't believe who had sent it. The throne is poisoned, but the realm needs healing. Come not as conqueror, but as balance. I will open the gates. Eddard Stark. Jorah paced behind her. "It's a trap, or it's a cry for help," Dany said quietly. She looked to her dragons, still small, still growing, still hungry. "Either way," she whispered, "I answer it." "Wait, Daenerys invited to Westeros by Ned Stark? What timeline are we in?" "Oh, you think this is crazy. You haven't seen anything yet." Meanwhile, Robb Stark's army crossed into the Riverlands, not to reclaim justice, to crush Stannis. The Freys had reluctantly opened their gates again. But this time they didn't ask for marriage. They demanded security, and Robb gave them names, people to kill. Lannister agents, Red priests, anyone who whispered loyalty to the Fire God. "I am not my father," Robb told them. "I do not believe in mercy." In the capital, the Red Keep pulsed with unease. Stannis ruled with cold order. Melisandre walked the halls like a queen of smoke, and anyone who questioned them burned. In the square where Ned once confessed, new pyres were lit daily, and in the shadows of that flame, Arya Stark watched, no mask, no dagger, just eyes unblinking and a whisper to herself. He let this happen. Hold up, Arya's not striking yet. No, she's studying. And the next name on her list isn't Stannis. It's the Red Woman. Tyrion returned to his old quarters, now untouched since Ned's coup. Dust coated the goblets, the maps, the memories. He poured himself wine and waited, because he knew Ned would come, and he did. Hours later, hooded, silent, colder than he'd ever been. "You sent the girl a letter," Tyrion said. Ned nodded. Tyrion sipped. "Well, this is going to be loud." Across the sea, Daenerys boarded a ship bound for Dorne. She brought only 3 companions: Jorah Mormont Barristan Selmy, and the last living blood of House Targaryen. But this wasn't an invasion. Not yet. This was a return. Back in King's Landing, Melisandre woke from a dream. She screamed, fire burned behind her eyes. Visions, dragons over Blackwater, wolves feasting. Shadows turning on their masters, she ran to Stannis. "There is another coming," she warned. He didn't flinch. "Let them come." Okay, this is where it breaks. Because Robb's army reaches Harrenhal, and he finds it abandoned. Not by force, by choice. The gates hang open, tents still smolder, food half-eaten. But every man who served the Baratheon cause, gone. Robb doesn't speak for hours. Then he looks to the east. They're heading to the capital. He turns to Grey Wind. They want a war of kings. Let's give them one. In the capital. Ned finally makes his move, not with blades, with words. He walks into the throne room publicly. For the first time since Joffrey's death, people gather, whispers. Fly and Ned Stark kneels before. Stannis gasps outrage, confusion. I serve the realm, Ned says, not the crown. Stannis looks down at him, then kneel before the fire. Ned rises and walks away. Wait, did Ned just submit? And then walk off. What kind of game is this? Oh, it's a trap. And it's almost ready, because the very next day, Daenerys lands in Dorne, and she doesn't hide. She walks into Sunspear in daylight, dragons above her, and Dornish lords at her side. The Martells open their gates, not in fear, in vengeance. Elya's daughter returns, they say, and fire follows her. Tyrion receives the message at midnight. He pours wine, then wakes Ned. You've invited chaos to us. A dinner, he says. Ned stares at the candlelight. I didn't invite chaos, he replies. I created it. Arya finally makes her move. She enters the temple of the Red God disguised as a burning supplicant, walks past fire, past gold, past guards right up to Melisandre. You do not belong here, the Red Woman whispers, eyes wide. Arya smiles and slits her throat. Oh my God, Arya just killed Melisandre in the capital? This isn't rebellion anymore. This is execution. And the fire has no god left. Stannis loses control for the first time. He orders Arya hunted. The streets burn with her face on every wall. But she's already gone because she was never staying. She heads south to Dorne to meet the one person she never expected. In Sunspear, Daenerys waits, and when Arya enters the chamber, dusty, bloodied and silent, Daenerys asks her, "Do you want revenge?" Arya replies, "I want truth." Daenerys nods, then whispers, "Then come with me." Towar. With me. Towar. Westeros is on fire because Ned Stark lit the match. He betrayed his honor, betrayed the game. And now he's betrayed the very idea of kingship. Stannis sits the Iron Throne, crowned in blood. Arya slit Melisandre's throat in cold silence. Robb marches from the north, not as a son, but a wolf with his father in his sights. And across the sea, Daenerys Targaryen has returned, with dragons, Dorne, and Arya Stark at her side. Ned? He's not running. He's waiting, because he doesn't want to rule the realm. He wants to watch it fall. The skies above King's Landing turned grey as two storms approached, one from the north, the other from the sea. From atop the ruined Tower of the Hand, Ned Stark watched birds scatter over the rooftops, saw the smoke already rising from the distant hills. War was coming. But this time it wasn't war between houses, it was war between ideologies, between Flame and Frost and Ned Stark. He would not lift a blade. He would only open the gates. Wait, hold up. Ned isn't defending the city? He's letting two armies march in at once. This man's not a leader anymore, he's an executioner. Inside the Red Keep, Stannis paced. Melisandre was dead, his army scattered, half still loyal, half fractured by the news that the Queen's fire was snuffed out in silence. His grip on the city tightened with every decree. More executions, more pyres, more silence from the people, but no matter how many he burned, they didn't fear him, they waited, because everyone in King's Landing had heard the whispers. The Dragon Queen is coming. The young wolf is coming. And the man who opened the gates will choose who bleeds. Robb Stark stood at the front of 20,000 men outside the Gate of the Gods. He didn't bring banners. He brought siege weapons and rage beside him. Catelyn Stark looked upon the walls and whispered, "He's in there." Robb didn't blink. "Then we burn it all." Across the Blackwater, Daenerys stood on the deck of her flagship. Drogon circled above, wings slicing the clouds. Behind her, the Martells, Arya, and a fleet unlike anything Westeros had seen since Aegon's conquest. But this time, the Queen didn't conquer with fire first. She sent a raven to Ned Stark. The letter was short. "Will you stand in my way?" Ned read it in silence, then turned to Tyrion. "Tell the guards," Ned said, "to abandon the gates." Wait, Ned is opening the gates for both armies. Robb from the north, Dany from the sea, and the city in between. It's about to drown in blood. The bells rang, not for surrender, for silence. The gates opened. No banners, no defenders. Just wind. Stannis stood in the throne room, blade drawn, guards behind him. But he was already alone. Arya entered first. No sword, no armor, just quiet steps and cold eyes. Behind her, Daenerys, flanked by two dragons, grounded but restless. Their growls echoed through the Red Keep like thunder in a crypt. From the north, Robb stormed in through the streets, no resistance, just fear. And Ned's name whispered on every tongue. He didn't pause until he reached the throne room, and what he saw. Stannis, Dany, Arya dragons, and his father unarmed. Watching Catelyn Stark arrived moments later. The hall was still, 3 armies, 1 throne, and 1 man who started it all. Okay, this is it. 3 powers, 1 room, no peace. And Ned Stark, silent in the middle of it all. What he says next changes everything. Ned stepped forward, looked at Daenerys. You could burn him. He looked at Robb. You could gut him. He looked at the Iron Throne. I could let you. Then he looked at everyone, but none of you will rule anything. Dany stepped forward. And who decides that? Ned didn't flinch. He drew a knife, not to kill anyone else, but to cut open his palm. Blood dripped onto the throne's steps, not for magic, for proof. Every man who's sat this chair has paid in blood. I've paid mine. You want it? Then pay more. Robb raised his sword. So did Dany's guards. Tension thickened. Arya didn't move. She watched. She waited, because she knew this was her father's last game. Then Ned did something no one expected. He turned his back to the throne and walked out. What? Did Ned just leave in the middle of a 3-way standoff? Daenerys blinked. Robb cursed under his breath. Catelyn stepped between them and whispered, If you sit that chair, you become part of it. But neither stepped forward. Not yet. Outside the throne room, Tyrion caught up with Ned. You think walking away fixes this? No, Ned said. But burning it would. Tyrion tilted his head. Are you going to? Ned didn't answer, but he handed Tyrion a key. To the wildfire under the keep. To the wildfire under the keep. 3 armies, 1 throne. Robb Stark, Daenerys Targaryen, and Stannis Baratheon all stood ready to claim power, but Ned Stark walked away. Not with surrender, not with mercy. With a plan. He gave Tyrion a key to the wildfire buried beneath the Red Keep, and now as the sun sets over the city that's bled for generations, the last game begins. The Iron Throne stood untouched for hours. No king, no queen, no crown, just the echo of boots on stone and the low rumble of dragons waiting in the dark. Stannis stood motionless before it, jaw-locked. He would not sit first, because to sit would be weakness, to wait. That was power. Across the room, Daenerys stared back. Unblinking, her hand hovered over Drogon's reins. 1 word. And she could turn the throne to molten slag. But she didn't speak. Not yet. Between them stood Robb Stark, covered in the dust of war, sword still sheathed, eyes flickering to the throne, not with hunger, but with disgust. His mother stood behind him, silent. The past and the future, watching their present collapse, and Ned Stark. He was gone. Wait, did everyone just stop? No fighting, no blood? That's because the real blade is still hidden, and it's about to be unsheathed. Tyrion stood in the catacombs beneath the Red Keep. Torchlight flickered against old barrels. Dozens of them, green, glassy, glowing wildfire. He held the key in one hand and a match in the E. Other sweat dripped from his brow, not from heat, from the weight of total annihilation. He whispered to himself, If I light this, no one wins, then paused. No one wins anyway. Meanwhile, outside the walls, Arya Stark climbed to the highest point of the city. She watched the throne room from above. She had no army, no banners, but a blade, still hidden in her sleeve, and a name still on her lips. Ned Stark, not to kill, to remember, because what happened next would decide what kind of world he left behind. Inside the throne room, Stannis spoke first. I am king by right of blood, Dany answered, and I am queen by birth and fire. Robb said nothing. Then slowly, he stepped forward, and did what no one expected. He drew his sword and sank it into the stone floor. I don't want it, Robb said. The North will never kneel again, but we won't burn for this chair. Then he turned and walked away. Oh my God, Robb Stark just gave up the throne. This is the moment. The game is ending, and no one's playing by the rules. Daenerys stared at the empty chair, her hand tightened, and for a moment, just a moment, she saw herself sitting, there, whole crowd cheering, dragons roaring. But then she remembered the letter. Ned's words, come not as conqueror, but as balance, and she made her decision. She turned to Stannis. You want the throne? Sit on it. And she walked away too. Stannis's hands twitched alone. Now no rivals, no opposition. He stepped forward, 1 foot, then the next his shadow fell across the blades, and he sat. The Iron Throne groaned beneath him, and in that moment, everything burned. Wait! Deep beneath the city, Tyrion dropped the match. He never heard Stannis' name. He never saw Dany walk away. He just whispered, "Let the game end here." The wildfire ignited. The catacombs exploded. A roar like the gods screaming ripped through the earth. The Red Keep shattered. The throne room vanished in green fire. Arya shielded her eyes. From her perch, she saw the entire top of the hill vanish in one breath. Ash replaced stone. Silence replaced crowns. And the Iron Throne? Gone hours later. The survivors stood in what remained of the capital. Robb, Daenerys, Arya, Tyrion, Catelyn. No crown, no king, just ash, and Ned Stark's voice in their minds. Let the throne burn. So no one else dies for it. From the rubble, a single sword was found. Blackened, broken Ned's. Daenerys turned to Robb. No rulers? No more. Arya walked away. Tyrion sat in the dirt and laughed until he cried. Catelyn knelt beside the sword and whispered a prayer, not for peace, but for silence. The North Ravens returned home with only 5 words. The throne is gone forever. And Ned Stark, he was never seen again. Some say he died in the fire. Some say he left with the ashes. Some say he still walks the ruins of the city he saved by destroying. But one truth remained. No king ruled Westeros. No queen sat the throne. No house wore the crown. Just people, trying to remember what it felt like to live without dying for symbols.